Hello, everyone from all around the world, and welcome to the STEM seminars. Here we are unfolding female STEM stories together. And today we will have a lovely chat with inspiring students studying from all across Europe, telling us about their majors and STEM journeys in their life, actually. And these seminars take place within the collaboration with ET Girls Go STEM and Enhance University Alliance, which brings together 10 universities of technology in Europe. And within the collaboration of Girls Go STEM, which is a European initiative that aims to encourage and empower young girls in STEM to learn STEM and to learn the related skills. And I'm your moderator of today from Girls Go STEM, and my name is Ceren. I'm from Turkey. And today our agenda is designing better cities with biology and engineering. So, as we all know, engineering better cities means thinking beyond concrete and steel. By merging biology and engineering, we can build like urban systems that function more like living organisms, which are like adaptive, efficient, resilient, and of course, sustainable. And let's go and meet our lovely speakers of today. First, we have Lisa studying at the NTNU Norway, and she is currently majoring at biology.
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Lisa. And then we have Nikita. She is studying at TU Berlin.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm studying urban design at TU Berlin right now and looking forward to your questions.
And then we have Carlota. She's studying at UP and at Spain, and she's a student of mechanical engineering and industrial design engineering. Hello, Carlota. How are you?
Hi, I'm Carlota from Spain. Thanks for having us.
So, and today I'm Ceren. I'm the ambassador of Girls Go STEM, and let's take a look at the timeline of this seminar. So, in the first 30 to 40 minutes, we will hear from the ambassadors and their journeys and their STEM-related majors. And then in the second part, we will be holding a Q&A session. And in this Q&A session, our audience is allowed to ask their questions in three ways. You can ask your questions through the chat box, and if you like, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. And we will be sending a Metrimeter link, and anonymously you can send your questions through that link too in the second part of the seminar. So without further ado, let's start off with our questions. So Lisa, you're currently studying at biology, which personally my favorite class in my school. So when did your interest in biology begin to rise, and how did you realize it could become a career more than just a school subject like me?
Well, I actually did not do biology in high school, but I did have it in my elementary school and middle school, and I really enjoyed it. And then I had physics and chemistry and maths in high school, but I realized that I really missed that focus. I was reading this book, which actually brought back a lot of the fascination that I've always had for animals and the wildlife. I've always been encouraged and intrigued by it, but this book that I was reading, by the time where you decide and apply for university, um, defined what I thought was important. Um, and I really drew a lot of I got a lot of inspiration from this book because it was talking about all these species, and I just thought about the fact that I didn't know that many of them, and I found it really weird to share the world with so many species and know nothing about them and how they work. That was my main motivation for why I applied for the course. And I also realized that this could become my career move when I further, like by reading this book, but also following and paying attention to how the world is developing with climate change. I found that this was what I really wanted to focus and put my work to and my attention to, and aspire to make a change here that will actually contribute to some positive news because we've had a lot of negative news lately. regarding climate. So yeah, I would say that was why I got into it and realized that this was something that I wanted to do. Yeah.
And speaking of species, so do you still like working on projects upon like species, animals, and nature in your college or university nowadays?
Yeah, I have a range of different topics and courses. In biology, you choose a direction here at NTNU. So I've chosen marine biology, but I just chose this semester. And before that, I had a bunch of other mandatory courses that we all have, which is all cellular, molecular, from that to um, species diversity and ecological function in ecosystems. So currently I am doing, I just did a dissection lab, for instance, with fish physiology and anatomy as the focus. And I'm doing ecotoxicology as another subject, focusing on toxins and chemicals in the environment. And I'm doing marine ecology and mathematics, which I've chose to have as an extra course, and statistics as well. So it's a big range with subjects you can choose from, but we do dive into all the aspects of biology, both molecular and bigger picture on a bigger level, to say it that way.
So Carlota, so you're majoring at the engineering, industrial engineering, and what inspired you to pursue engineering, and what made you confident in choosing this field?
Hi. So I chose engineering. At first, I didn't know what to study, and I was debating myself between something creative or something technical because I'm always I've always been so curious about how things work. But I always I've been the creative person in every like group work or anything. So the last thing I thought was about entering engineering, but then I saw that this industrial design engineering existed, so I just went for it. And then I was lacking some technical work, so I entered in mechanical engineering, and I noticed how there are so many things that we don't see that are related with engineering, and how comfort or the well-being of people work, such as the climate in a building, or the comfort, or there are some things that people don't think about, that it makes such a difference. So it just made me think about how many things we could improve and knowing how they work. So it just made me like really passionate about it. So I don't know.
Thank you. And let's go and learn about architecture majoring. Nikki, so again, for you, what made you choose architecture, and when did you actually like realize you wanted to shape spaces and cities, like design cities one day?
Well, growing up, I moved around a lot because of my parents' jobs and living in everything from a home that sometimes got flooded, and then I moved to tea estates and then an industrial town and then a bigger city. So constantly adapting to newer environments made me sort of curious about like why some places were so welcoming while some other places were not really functional and very much harder to live in. So at that time, I didn't realize they were architecture or urban questions. I was just trying to understand my surroundings. So when I chose architecture, I discovered that the field was actually helping me like make sense of those experiences. And through my academic projects, especially like designing flood resilient and climate responsive homes and buildings, I realized that design decisions are directly affecting how people live and adapt. And if you think about it, everything around you is architecture, like your home that you're living in right now, the hospitals, schools, parks, everything. So that's when my interest sort of naturally expanded from buildings to cities and trying to understand these urban systems.
So when you were a teenager or high school student, did you ever plan houses or hospitals or like cities within your own perspective to build better ones?
To be honest, growing up, I was very much into art and crafts. I would always go up to workshops and build my birdhouses and then also make small pieces of furniture. So that's how I mainly got into this craft because it didn't start out so, never starts out so glamorous. It's always something small. So, like the piece of furniture I built when I was 17 actually brought me a lot of confidence and made me think, oh, maybe this is something I can enjoy doing on a bigger scale. And that's how I got into architecture. And I also love mathematics. There's a lot of mathematics and physics involved because I think people think architecture is just about designing, but we need to know the possible aspects of how much load can this building take, how big the pillar should be. So there's a lot of those things involved, and that made it more fun and real because just designing doesn't work and just math didn't work for me. So both together was something that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, as I agree with you, baby steps can cause like beautiful impacts on our society and our systems of today. And combining different fields of STEM also creates a perfect harmony in order to build better systems. So
Absolutely.
back to Lisa. So what skills and habits should high school students can develop to succeed in biological sciences to start from today if they like to measure, if they would like to follow your path one day?
I would say stay curious is like a basic thing, but if you have that drive and that interest for, okay, what's actually going on here? What am I seeing? What am I looking at? Why is it like this? That's what has got me a longer way here. That's why being intrigued and asking all these questions, and being engaged, I think is really important. And that doesn't have to mean that you raise your hand the most in class or are active in that way, but maybe that you seek out information, either through the books or lectures, or the teachers, but also from your own work. I mean, maybe do a bit of um, work aside from school where you look at what are your real interests, because what is going to define if you enjoy the biology or a scientific subject is whether you actually have a drive for it and I have an interest and a curiosity for it. So I would really encourage people to figure out first what's interesting to them. But if you're taking biology like you, Shirin, and you know that you could be interested in doing this, I would say being specific and being accurate, and accuracy is always something that's going to get you like points. It's always going to be helpful. Communication is also really important. And being able to look at things from different sides, because when we do studies in biology, we may see something in the microscope which may seem like it's one thing, but then in fact there's something entirely different happening, or what you're seeing is proving why this one phenomenon is not really existing or is existing in this case. So I think for the participants, for you to understand and for it to be easy for you to follow, I suggest just find a passion, figure out why you enjoy doing it. Also, always helps in biology if you love looking at cells or in the microscope and you love being in the laboratory, consider doing a cellular molecular direction or biotechnology for your like direction. Or if you love the bigger picture animals, ecological landscapes and monitoring of these, you should also decide or try out this path if you find it interesting. Yeah.
Yes, like once we be aware and conscious about our environment and our actually our interests in the early ages, maybe we can be more directly directly like focused on a specific field and grow our passion and interest into that field, so that leads to
Exactly.
succeed.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe to wrap it up, like you say, have some objective and look around yourself? What do you see around you? What is it that you pay attention to?
So, Carlotta, how do you think engineering can help create safer and smarter and even like more sustainable cities within the latest technology?
I think engineering is really the backbone of every city. And when systems work well, you don't even notice them, but they are essential. So I think, in my experience, working with Enhance, for example, that is um, eh, like an international opportunity to be able to know more engineers that work in different paths from different places. We noticed different problems or different yeah, problems that may be solved in a way that only engineers like envision maybe. So it is really important, like the collaboration between engineers and between brains to make cities smarter or more efficient or even more um, easier to live in, making making it more attractive to people. I don't know. In my field designing, the places where people will live like more comfortable, it's really important, and I think it moves the world.
Yes, thank you. So as I agree, once like engineers, architects, and biologists collaborate on common projects together to develop their own local cities or like even their own like local region, I believe like beautiful and amazing outcomes we can see nowadays. And so I have a follow-up question. During while you're measuring in engineering, or maybe even when you're in high school students, did you observe the problem in your local region or like local city that made you plan to solve that problem when you plan a project upon it?
For example, for my thesis, in my career or in my degree, I started thinking about how Spain has this lack of habitants in the center of it, and how it is always like old people. So they have a problem, which is that it is kind of an illness to be in solitude and don't have anyone to share their time or their experiences or their happiness with. So I started doing this kind of building that you can like build before and then just put it in a place that they could share, and that is distancing it from. In Spain we always go to bars maybe, and every town has a bar, but I think it's not like a very comfortable place, and it's always so male dominated. So it's this thesis is about making a place that it's um, worth it to go in, and it's collaborative and they can learn things, but they can also stay like in their normal time. So for me, engineering it's about looking and finding out something that it's your, like the society lacks something and no one is thinking about it. And normally it's about some groups of people that are minorities, so it's not that marketable, I think. So it's our duty to make their lives easier or even more happy. So that's what moves me, I think.
Yes, as you stated, developing a aware perspective, even from an early age, is really significant. So, as an example, I live in a poor city, and there's a local water contamination. So, with my friends, we developed a water surface cleaning robot while using our engineering experiences and skills together to solve our local problem. So,
You are already thinking like an engineer.
thank you. To solve our local problem. And so let's go back to Nikita. What skills should high school students, if they're interested in architecture, should start developing in order to pursue an architecture career or a major in the future?
Architecture requires both analytical and creative thinking. So, a strong foundation in mathematics and applied physics is essential because architects work with structure, materials, and like environmental performance, how long it's going to last, the longevity of the structure, and the spatial systems. And along with it, sketching is also quite important. It helps translate your ideas into real thinking and problem solving. And observation and curiosity are also very crucial to develop early on as high schoolers because architects are constantly observing how people interact in spaces. What could I improve on? What could I make different the next time I'm creating a city? Because once you finish a project, it doesn't just end there. People need to live there for a long period of time. So that's also quite important. And today, the field also has a lot of tools like digital modeling and visualization, along with GIS, which is like geographical information systems, which allows these designers to analyze like spatial data and environmental data. So these you develop also during your process if you're studying architecture. So you needn't stress upon it that much, but it's a good thing that you know is going to come up. So ultimately, it's a great balance between creativity along with scientific reasoning to create like a meaningful and functional environment or city.
Thank you. As I stated, it's beyond like developing designs, but also bringing a perspective or idea styles that integrate with technology and environmental data.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you need to be aware that you're going to have a lot of technical skill set, a lot of softwares to maneuver. So I think being a bit proficient in computers and softwares would be great.
Thank you. And Lisa, can you, like, is there a specific experience of yours? Can you describe a lab or a research experience that impacted you the most throughout your journey?
Yeah, I have a few. Well, I've done a lot of lab reports and a lot of labs the past 3 semesters. So I have a few to pick from, but I think um, one of the most interesting labs that I have had so far has been on actually like dissecting a rat, because we were learning about the anatomy of animal physiology. And by doing this, you realize how it is a model organism or a so-called model organism for dissection in biology because it resembles the human internal anatomy quite um, quite similarly and quite astonishingly well. So the ratio, for example, between the lungs and the heart is very similar to how it would be for us. The positioning and the systems are very, very, very similar. Of course, it's not exactly the same. But I found it extremely interesting to do. This was also my first dissection of an animal, and I found it really interesting to see how we have sort of similarities, and that you can find similarities or equalities, I guess, in very varied species and very varied things. And it's the same when you look at plants as well and floristics. We had a few labs there as well where you look at, like, for instance, very basic is like the turgid cells when you have osmosis and water coming into the stem, for example, of a plant and how it can transport through vascular bundles can transport liquid up through the system. To learn and see this with your own eyes and see how the cells actually change shape has been extremely impactful for me. Um, and yeah, I hope that I was able to answer some of that. But yeah, I do think that my personal impact there was to learn more about how we structurally function as individuals, but also as a part of this whole taxa of animals and everybody being having similar traits to look back to. You also see this in the like taxa and taxonomic phylogenetic trees, where you look at the differences and similarities between very varied species. So it is that's been very interesting for me, and it's left me with an impact that we are maybe not as different as we may think.
So I believe like the first moments are really important and meaningful. I remember dissecting an animal for the first time. It was a cow eye, and I was amazed how we have like similar eye structure. How the nerves and the structure are so similar that we can even connect with our own human eyes. And I was able to explore science in a deeper level with a hands-on experiment.
Absolutely.
So, Carlota, so as we know, you are a female student majoring in engineering. And have you faced any challenges? And if you had, what challenges have you faced as a female student in the engineering field? And what would the advice that you would like to give to young girl students who like to pursue the same career like you do?
Well, engineering, it's still a male-dominated field, so it usually means that you have to prove yourself a little bit more. I've I found out that most of the women that study engineers, normally they think about what they can do to difference themselves from other engineers to make themselves um like more. I mean, they usually find a way to difference their curriculums, because they think they have to make it more like attractive, for them to be. But I think that's changing a bit right now. Um, I've been fortunate to know and promote diversity in this kind of fields, and and I think, we all are doing our best to make it like more diversity friendly. My advice to young girls would be, don't let stereotypes define you. If you're curious and analytical, creative, you belong here just as much or as any other person. So you just go for it. It will be fine.
I totally agree with you. Beyond the stereotypes and gender biased views, I believe that girl students, if they have the interest and the passion in the whatever field, it can be engineering, architecture, and biology. If they have the passion, I believe they will succeed. They will succeed even without the views that they try to stop them. So as we all know, we encourage them, we encourage younger students. And let's go back to Nikita. And so, it's a special question. Can you describe a design project that changed how you think about the urban life?
Since I've worked in many different contexts, I've also done projects in Asia and then now I'm doing projects in Europe. So it's a different dynamic altogether. But one project that truly changed how I think about urban life would be called La Font de la Vida, which means Fountain of Life, which was developed by me and my friends for Europan 18 in Barcelona, which is a competition based on real life sites proposed by the local government. And they're actually looking for real solutions. So this site had landslide risks. There's a disconnected river and the site is on top of two mountains, which has two neighborhoods that are completely disconnected. And so I saw that as a design problem in the beginning, but as we analyzed like the water system and the soil systems, we found that these urban issues are rarely isolated and they're very, very interconnected. So we designed these terraces for slope stability, and then we also made a water reuse system, and we directly linked them for community farming and for having public spaces where people can interact and in this case, like Carlota once mentioned, this area of Spain was completely inhabited by old people who are completely disconnected from each other. They have to come down the mountains for everything. So we tried to create an entire site which had their own system, their own market, their own spaces, and like to do community farming, because we saw a lot of small patches of people having their own farms. So what deeply influenced me was working with teammates also from Shanghai and Italy, because when you're studying something like urban design and architecture, you see a lot of different perspectives. So somehow my design would in India wouldn't fit somewhere in Europe. So it was very fun to collaborate on that. We were having different perspectives from all regions, and each of us had a different understanding of like density, public life, and community. So that collaboration made me think, oh, there's also different urban processes to study. We did study a lot of systems there in terms of biology, and then engineered stuff that could work there. So it was a fun collaboration of like cultural perspectives as well, and that influenced me a lot.
Thank you. And the last few questions, I have questions listed for all of our speakers, integrating architecture, biology, and engineering in a single form. So let's start with the first one. How do architects collaborate with engineers and biologists when designing healthier and more sustainable cities? We can start with you, Lisa.
Yeah, so I haven't done any projects with a mechanical engineer or an architect yet, but what I know from my field is that biologists and architects and engineers would work together to make sure that, well, my job as a biologist there would be to make sure that whatever wildlife is there is taken care of and not put into danger when constructing a site, for instance. Also, managing and monitoring and making a sort of map of what we actually have here of species diversity, and the amount of different arts we have, different species we have, and measuring and checking whether or not any of these are like extinction threatened, if they are specifically useful for the environment. Because what is important is that we respect the land that we are building on, and that we understand what building would, or removing something to build and construct would imply for the structure and fundament of the landscape and the plots, basically. So not, for instance, if there's many trees around, that implies that there are many roots and that the soil would be very sort of powdery or unstable if you were to take up all the trees and dig up all the roots. That the plot that you are left with needs to have some sort of construction added to it, or some preparation before you could build on it and be sure that it's safe. So especially for safety regulations, it's important. For biodiversity and monitoring, it's very important that we make sure that we're not harming like a big family of some species that are living there, or that there's nothing that is like on the brink of extinction that we don't know about, that we remove when we build out on this area. That's from the biological perspective. And then I think maybe Carlotta and Nikita had some ideas about how to work together from their perspectives.
We can move with Carlotta.
Should I go first? Okay. So I have the opportunity right now to be able to collaborate with students from other fields in engineering, and because of Enhance, and that it's a really great opportunity for us to talk between nationalities and fields. And right now I'm doing an Erasmus in Portugal, where I'm doing an European project semester. And we are also working in groups from different paths and different nationalities. So we are, in fact, doing a project, and we are working. I'm working with an architect and with a biologist, and we are looking for well, we are trying to find the problem that we can fix all together, and we thought about some local problems from here, Porto in Portugal, and we are trying to make this kind of dehumidifier that takes out the humidity from the environment, because here, as it's next to the sea, it's very humid everything, so it just like makes the walls like rot and stuff. So we are trying to use the water that we take out of the environment to maybe feed plants. They could be like um, mint or oregano or something that you can use, so you don't have to keep yourself reminding to keep reminding yourself to water them. So that's just an example, and it's like a really exact example, a really small example that we are doing in a small project. But I think you can escalate that. Like every engineer or every someone that wants to fix problems, they are going to work well together, and they are going to find something where they just match. I think.
And thank you for your ideas. Nikita, what's your ideas?
Uh, since I also worked at an architecture firm, there's normally this fun tug of war between architects and engineers, because the architects like, I want the final result to be this, and the engineers like, that's not gonna happen. It's too complicated. It's not real. But then we always find a way to negotiate and make it happen, but it's just a fun little joke that always runs around. So I wanted to mention that. But I do believe that designing healthy cities is more of a shared process, and engineers provide the technical data and foundation, while biologists contribute towards the scientific knowledge. For example, in a housing district, the engineers may determine the drainage capacity and the structural grids, while ecologists recommend native planting strategies to reduce heat and how to increase biodiversity. And then these architects then organize the buildings, the open spaces, the transport and circulation network, so that the infrastructure, ecology, and then the daily lives can function as one cohesive system. So this is how I believe you can achieve the ideal city, but let's see how it goes in the future. Hopefully it gets better.
Thank you so much. And then we can move on with the questions from our audience. So as a quick reminder, you can send your questions through the link in the chat box. It's a Mentimeter link, and it's completely anonymous. You can directly ask your questions from that link, and if you like, you can ask your questions through the chat box, just typing your questions and sending to everyone. And if you like, you can even raise your hands, or if you like to unmute yourself, you can also ask your questions. So without waiting, let's start off with our first question from our audience. So here we have, how can we motivate more girls to study STEM like you do? And how do you experience women underrepresentation in STEM? We can start with our ambassador, Lisa.
Yeah. So I think we all have a shared passion here at Enhanced STEM, and all of us are ambassadors here because we want to be, because we want to share that our passion here is something that anybody can achieve, really, if you have the interest for a subject or for a degree or something like this. And I think the most important thing is to just give yourself the chance to try. Try if you want, or if you have a passion or even an idea that you could be good at something, try it out and see. And it's a bit like Nikita mentioned earlier regarding her path, that it's not going to be one linear direction upwards or path. It's going to go crazy. You're going to go up and down all the time, and you will probably doubt yourself. But it's very important that you don't let other people's doubts determine whether you try or not, or whether you try again or not. Because really, the only person that defines what you can do is you. And that's what we're here to say and to show you and tell you that we were in the same position. We think this way. This is where we are because of our mindsets, and that is possible for you as well. And I think the underrepresentation in STEM, to answer the last part of the question, is becoming more and more talked about. We're being better at taking up space as female STEM scientists or workers. And I believe that that's exactly what we should be doing. We should continue to talk about this and motivate each other. I think it's going upwards. It is looking better. And I think that the underrepresentation in STEM just shows why we have to continue taking the path we do. But I also see that we are creating change here, that it is possible for these sort of cultural traits or tendencies to change. And I've seen that it has changed for me and for what I believe is possible. So I think the same is true for everybody.
Thank you so much for your lovely answer. Carlotta, what's your views on the question?
I think we should think about the strength of being a woman in STEM. It is not that common, but I think it's not an inconvenience. Like in engineering, every perspective it's important, and we have our own perspective, and we are so strong too, and we matter, and our opinions and our ideas are worth it, and we should think like that. We should take up the space that we deserve. We should be able to choose what we want to study and what we want to pursue. And I think there's just this strength about just doing it, and not thinking about what everybody believes or what everybody says. And I think little by little we are taking up the space that we deserve, and every time there's more like female teachers or female um people that we look up to, and I think it's our duty to make that possible. We have to do it. We as women, we have to take up the space. So just go for it.
Thanks for sharing, and let's hear from Nikita.
About the question, yeah, I do feel ultimately the motivation comes from themselves. Like you already see in social media how women are like climbing up all sorts of in all sorts of fields, like from like design to engineering to sports to everywhere. So I think you just need to be more loud about it, not loud in volume, but more loud in, your questions and your ideas and your inputs. So I believe that as you move ahead, you should participate more in almost everything that you're scared in. So if you're great at something, not be afraid to be loud and try to be disgustingly educated in almost whatever you're interested in. So I think that's where also the underrepresentation of women in STEM comes in, because you feel like being quieter is, will be safer, but also it makes you invisible at the same time. And that's not really fun. So I think just to be extremely loud and be like crazy educated about in whatever you're interested in, finally finding your footing in this place, be it in STEM or whichever fields it may be. And then finally also understanding that it's not enough to be loud, but also to learn when to speak and when to listen, because that's where a lot of misrepresentation also happens. So I think you just have to be really confident and loud in competence.
Thank you for all sharing your ideas, and I agree a lot with you. And I also agree with that. When you also direct yourself in a field or an idea or a topic that you don't really feel confident at, but if you pursue yourself or if you encourage yourself to even study a bit more upon this field, I think it will lead you to succeed and even become more confident. So let's move on with our second question. I can see that it is for Nikita. What was the biggest challenge that you experienced in your university, which is TU Berlin?
I did learn German before coming to TU Berlin, so I wouldn't say it's been smooth sailing. There's also a lot of aspects you need to consider, like design and architecture. You also open a lot of doors, but in terms of that, you also need to represent yourselves better. I do feel the challenge here is trying to communicate yourselves better because because I do believe in Germany, your ideas are really well appreciated and really well taken care of. So no idea is a bad idea here. They'll probably help you improve and get better. But some of the challenges I would, what should I say? This is a bit hard because I was taken aback, but yeah, I think most of the systems here are similar to what I studied back home, but understanding like the work culture has also been different. It's much more well paced. You have much more autonomy over your own job. So I do believe a lot of creative freedom is given here, and it's been fun till now. If anything else comes up in mind, I'll let you know.
So I will reversely change the question. What was the biggest opportunity you think in your university that was provided for you?
In my university. I do believe the professors here really push you into competitions and, you know, spaces where you need to be challenged. So here the professor won't be like, oh, this is something that I'm not gonna be helping you in, and like you have to take care of it yourselves. Because here they actually have systems. So in TU Berlin, there is an organization that helps you with the final output. For example, you need some sort of like helping them to get this sort of data like across the world. So they'll help you in that. And then again, there's also another professor for like different technical aspects. So if you need some sort of help in terms of sociology and like who you're designing for, there's also a department for that. So here it's much more open and more accessible in terms of knowledge. And maybe the one challenge also here would be bureaucracy. So if I need something done, it takes quite a while, but I think it somehow works. You get through all the systems and you do all the processes, it gets you somewhere. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience. Let's move on with our third question, which is, do you talk to male students about stereotypes against women in STEM? Is this a topic at all? So let's start with our ambassador, Lisa.
Yeah, so I am quite lucky in the sense that biology is, especially at NTNU, it's a female-dominated field. It is pretty much the only female-dominated field at the technical university here. Um, and it's not always been like that, so it's changed in recent years. But we are, at least for my year, we are quite a quite a few more women studying this subject than men. But I do still take the STEM representation for women seriously, even though I'm kind of lucky in my situation here. I do find that it's sort of a um, how can I say that? It's a one-off. It's not a normal occasion or situation, because when I used to study physics and maths before this, I was stuck in a classroom with only one other female students, and the rest were men or boys, and they did not have any perspective. They did not realize they didn't understand how they were supposed to approach us, which I think is a big shame, because we're all just interested in the same fields. So I do make it a point now where I talk to my friends that are male students in biology, but also male students. I have quite a few friends that are studying other things here that are male dominated. And I make sure to let them know that they should be aware of the fact that it is male dominated and what that implies for their few, the I guess the quality of their education, because here at NTNU they do a lot of group projects, and if there is not considerable representation, I think it can give some it can make some issues, and it can generate these stereotypes that are not necessarily true, and it can also sort of endorse an idea that people already have of women in STEM. So I do make a point of trying to talk about it here and making myself loud, like Nikita said, and saying that yes, I realize that I am lucky in my field, but I know that if I studied mathematics, that was not the case at all. So there's really not a change, because I'm the same person and I'm studying STEM fields, and there should not be any different approach to you, whether or not you are doing a STEM degree from other degrees.
Thank you for your lovely answer, Lisa. And then let's move on with Carlota.
Hi. So in my field, it is like a normal conversation starter, I think. We usually talk about it, and I've noticed that most of the men that are studying engineers don't understand why it is not a female dominated field. They just think we are not interested in it. They just think if we were, we would be studying it. They don't understand that maybe it's because it's male dominated that it's less attractive for women, maybe. So I don't think they understand there's a problem in underrepresentation for women. They just, I think they don't have to think about it, because the society just made their path like in that way, so they don't think it's different or it's difficult. So me as a female in this field, I usually try to talk about them, how it is not that easy for a girl to uh, just pursue it, because of how maybe uncomfortable it would be to be the only female in a class, or it is difficult to make them think like you do. But um for me, my friends did understand it at the last part of our conversation, but I don't think everybody has that conversation. So I think it's important for us to share our our perspectives and our paths with them.
Thank you. And Nikita, what's your views?
So when I joined architecture, the class was 70% male and then 30% female. And when I graduated, it was 50% male and then 50% female. And now in urban design, it's 60% women and 40% men. So I see a transition happening. And I believe this conversation hasn't been brought up, but there are studios in my university, like gender responsive studios, where they talk about this. So I do believe it's a point of conversation in terms of design and, outputs, but it doesn't normally happen on an everyday basis, because it's sort of a trend that keeps on changing. So I've never really had that conversation one on one. And also for the previous question that was answered to me, I remember two extra points. One is that now, since I'm doing urban studies, the urban design, it actually combines architecture, planning, sociology, and environmental studies. And this was a bigger bunch than what I had to navigate through when I was in bachelor's. So right now, I'm reading a bigger scale than I ever did back in school, because before it was to be a small plot, maybe like a small area, and now it's like 100 times of that. So for me, the challenging thing would have to be how big I scaled up from my bachelor's and how much I have to study now in terms of the final output that I had to gain. So I need a lot of back research. So that's something I find a bit more challenging. And also in terms of a bit more freedom, because right now I think it's common in all of the universities. You have the freedom to choose whatever class you want, but here, since it's so many departments, including sociology and planning and architecture, I need to again navigate about which classes I'm going to take, knowing what I'm going to do in the future. So it's a lot of more freedom that I need to navigate, which can also be harder because it's not streamlined. So I think for the high schoolers, you also have to sit down later with your professors to know, oh, what you want to do in later, because probably you'll never go into sociology, but you're still taking the sociology class. It might not help you later, even though you have the credits. So I think that's one of the challenges as well.
Thank you so much for answering. And as we approach to the end, we have our last final question, which is, how is your daily life as a university student? Do you have to study very hard? How do you manage this all, like time management and stuff? So let's start off with Lisa.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. My university experience is very hands-on, and it's very sort of based on showing up more than a lot of my friends who are studying other things here at NTNU, because I have a lot of labs that are mandatory to be able to do exams. You have a lot of lab prep that you have to do by yourself before, so printing out and reading through manuals and understanding the topics, as well as your everyday lectures and the curriculum that follows this. So in biology, if you choose the subjects in the direction that I do, I have gone in with an understanding that this requires me to be at school or be at university Monday to Friday every day, for at least 4 hours of just tuition or lectures. And then there's a lot of prep to do by yourself. You have assignments, and you have group projects, and you have labs, these things that you have to do in your spare time. But I don't find it extremely hard. And the reason why I don't find it extremely hard, even though it's time consuming and it fills my whole week, is because I have an interest. So time goes very quickly when I work with this. And I enjoy my group projects with my co-students and my peers. Um, and to manage all of this, you definitely will learn to have a schedule, to have a calendar, which you use actively, and you put in everything that you have to do that day. I've become very good at that now. I was not good at that before I started, but I learned how to schedule and manage my time. Also, a great tip is system in your like computer or in your notebooks for organizing how you structure the courses, what you are doing, make it easy, make folders, very basic things, but this will make things very less time consuming for you. You don't have to look for documents, you know exactly where they are. Making your own, I guess, daily schedule is what I think helps. And just staying consistent as much as you can, but also giving yourself slack. If you're sick, I'm a bit sick right now. I don't study till late like I would otherwise do. And if there's something that takes longer, just acknowledge that and accept it and do as best as you can. Yeah.
Thank you. And Carlot, do you have any ideas?
Yeah. So in my experience, because I've been studying two bachelors at the same time, and they are not like this double degree thing, my schedules are always packed, and I have to stay like the whole day in the university, which I think, in my opinion, it's fun because of the people that I have involved myself with, because I just get to spend the whole time with my friends, which is fun for me. I would say it is time consuming, and in well, Lisa is a very organized person, so I guess that works so fun with her. But I'm a chaos. I'm just a mess. I don't organize at all, and I've been able to do that in time. And and as messy girls, we can do it too. But it is just about showing up, I think, and then in my experience, it has been very collaborative. Like maybe you don't understand one subject, or you are not good at it, but some friend maybe is not good at some other subject, so you just like study together, and like all together you can do it better. and we all have the same experience in like messing up or having these difficult things that you have to improve. So it is showing up and having fun and just enjoying the the way that you're living. I don't know, it's just you have to be very optimistic about it. Even if it's hard, you have to find a way to think, just romanticize your life, I think. You have to be happy about what you are doing, even if it's hard, I think.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your own ideas and experiences. And as we approach to the end, I would like to thank all of our speakers for sharing their inspirational ideas, stories, and journeys with us, and guiding us to pursue our fields of STEM and that we're interested in. So thank you again so much for sharing and also attending today's seminar. Thank you, our audience, and asking your questions. And on the 17th of April, we have our third seminar, which is the final one, with an agenda of coding for a greener digital world. And we also have 3 lovely speakers and our host, which is a Girls Go STEM ambassador, Nina. And we are looking forward to attend that one too. I believe that it's such an interesting agenda, and it would be such an inspirational experience too. So thank you so much who answered all of the questions and even asked them. And I wish you all a great evening or a great day. Next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks for having us.